True 10 is brought to you by SA's newest top realtor, Karen Vasquez of Coldwell Banker. Karen is a local educator, mother, wife, and certified realtor that wants to help you find your new forever home.
Extensive damage there at the Ingram Square Shopping Center. Fire crews, I would imagine, in addition to the emotion of having lost one of their own tonight, are also going to be trying to continue their jobs and investigate what exactly caused this.
Now, the fire chief reporting that it was six-year firefighter Scott Deem that was the deceased firefighter. Again, one of the other injured firefighters taken to SAMC, the other one taken to University.
I don't know much about Ingram Park Mall.
At one point, we heard
It's
on
not
the
really
scanner
Ingram Park Mall. Okay, do you remember where Joe's Volcano is? Like,
I remember Joe's Volcano, but I don't remember where it was.
like Ingram Square Shopping Center. Not Ingram Park Mall so much. Ingram Square Shopping Center.
I did not know that's where it was.
Okay. Well, in that same shopping center that Joe's Volcano used to be in the back, and then you go around and there's more shops. And they used to have that Texas thrift store. It's still there.
The Joe's Volcano was like it was almost like it was on the corner of the street. Right?
Yes. And it was a whole shopping center.
And the thrift store is still there?
Well, the thrift store's still there, but the store that caught fire is not. And now it's all like part of it's burned down. But that's where this fire happened at, in that same like shopping center.
Is this like off of 410?
Yes.
This is crazy because I never realized that's where I was going. Like, I didn't drive.
I know, and I guess I didn't realize it either until later on, and I was like, wait a minute, Joe's Volcano was...
I'm remembering the parking lot because there was like as you're exiting, there's like thick poles. That
yes, and they're still in the...
Yeah, were they like yellow or something? I don't know why I'm thinking. Like, I remember that.
Yes, and they're still there, yeah.
I didn't know where I was.
All right. It is late May 18, 2017. 2017. Not that long ago. Ingram's...
Wait.
What?
Say that again?
May 18th, 2017. What?
I heard May 1817.
17.
I was like, wait, what century are we in? Okay, I got you. Sorry.
Well, we would have been burned at the stake.
Which?
So Ingram Square Shopping Center off of Ingram Road on the city's northwest side. At around 9:20 p.m., a call to the San Antonio Fire Department was dispatched to the strip mall located at the 6700 block of Ingram Road. The strip mall was around 85,000 square feet, first constructed in 1981. So the first firefighter crews arrived at the local gym, which was the main body of the fire. So it was in that shopping center, there was like this gym in there. The building was evaluated and firefighters immediately started their initial fight on the fire. Among those firefighters was Scott Deem. Within minutes, the fire grew fairly quickly, with smoke being a major concern. So that fire department that responded first on the scene is actually like right around the corner from that shopping center. So that's why they were the first ones there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was ladder 35 is what they're called.
It's like the units. They'll have their...
So another alarm was sounded and 2 more fire stations responded. Not after that, the high heat conditions became so intense, the battalion chief in command ordered all fire personnel out of the buildings. An emergency tone was sounded. Like on their suits, they have these pulsating, like they have these little alarms that go off. And when that goes off, that means like everyone has to get out of the buildings. Mm-hmm. And so in that shopping center, there's that Texas thrift store, which is like a Goodwill, basically. So it's this huge warehouse full of clothes and home stuff. So you can imagine if the light's on fire, that's like poof, right? That quickly got on fire, combined with the gym that was caught on fire. And the building was already old from the 1980s. By 9:30 p.m., a mayday call was made and a third alarm was dispatched. So fire crews continued to search for missing firefighters, at least 3 at the time. Shortly after that, one of the missing firefighters, Brad Phillips, was located. He was transported to San Antonio Military Medical Center, SAMC. And by 9:50, another missing firefighter's emergency signal was activated and was identified as Ladder 35 member Robert Vasquez. Vasquez was a rescuer attempting to locate Scott, who was missing at the time. So Robert was transported to University Hospital. And then by 10 p.m., the fire had grown very intensely, and the decision was made that the firefighters were to go on the defensive, and a 4-alarm fire was called. So when firefighters determine an alarm designation, it is based on the need of additional units and how intense the fire is. So within that time, they pretty much had called for anybody and everybody to come to the shopping center. So with this alarm, that meant all rescue operations were ceased. Scott Deem was still missing at the time when this was called. So Chief Charles Hood would go on to say that it was too dangerous to continue operations, and Chief Charles Hood spoke to reporters late that night and gave a very emotional conference update on the firefighter.
San Antonio Fire Department. Every day we run about 800 plus calls, and we take care of people who are having the worst days of their life. And unfortunately, this evening we have one of our worst days. We responded to a working structure fire out here about 9:12 this evening in a strip shopping center off of Ingram Road. Units arrived, found heavy fire. Due to the time of day and it being a gym, they went in and tried to do a search and rescue on the main body of fire. Units went in and something happened as far as the conditions changing, and they did evacuate the building. Upon them evacuating, we had a couple firefighters that were missing. So at this time, we have one firefighter that was transported to SAMC, and he is priority 1. We have another firefighter that was part of the rapid intervention team, the rescue team. He is a university hospital. He is a priority 2. We're anticipating that both of these firefighters are going to be okay, but we're asking for your prayers. This is very difficult because the fire was so intense. We started having structural collapses, and we had to go defensive. Very rough decision to leave a firefighter behind, and that's not what we do. But we had the risk of losing probably additional 15 to 20 firefighters if we did not go defensive on this fire. At this time, we're reporting Scott Deem. Firefighter's been on 6 years, has been lost. You saw the procession, the dignity that we provided this young man as he drove out in this ambulance right now.
So Scott Deem would not survive the fire that night, and his body was transported out. He stated that firefighter Robert Vasquez's injuries were not life-threatening, and firefighter Phipps sustained serious burn injuries but was in stable condition. Both had been a part of the San Antonio Fire Department for about 11 years. Chief Hood went on to explain the horrible conditions of the fire when the moment to declare the firefighters to be on the defensive meant leaving someone behind in order to save the rest of the firefighters. So Scott Deem was a 6-year veteran on the department, 31-year-old. Scott's body was processioned out of the shopping mall to the medical examiner's office that night. Firefighters from Ladder 35 and other companies were provided with crisis intervention and allowed to go home for the remainder of the night. And this would be the first local firefighter to fall on the line of duty since 1997. The 4-alarm fire was eventually diminished, and the late night reports and into early morning news brought that of a terrible work-related death for the firefighter. And then this included Ken's 5 reporters being live on the scene, interviewing fellow patrons and individuals that were in the shopping center at that time. And one of those on-site interviews was from the co-owner of the Spartan Box Gym, which is where the gym was the focus of the fire, where it started. This is from Ken's 5 interviewing Emond James the night of the fire.
Johnson was the co-owner of Spartan Box Gym, where the fire started. We interviewed Johnson the night of the fire, and that night he was in tears.
And yeah, my heart goes out to those firefighters. I'm glad they're here to try to salvage, our businesses out here, of course, and I'll pray for them. And I still can't believe this is happening. Yeah.
Scott Deem was not just a young firefighter in his prime career; he was also a husband and a father, and he would leave behind his pregnant wife, Jennifer Deem, 13-year-old daughter, a 7-year-old son. His funeral procession drew more than 140 fire trucks, 50 motorcycles, and hundreds of firefighters, not just from around the area, but the country. Many family and friends spoke of how Scott was a noble servant as a firefighter, giving his job his all on every call, and he was a family man who was loved and respected. With the death of a firefighter on the job, it prompted immediate response from OSHA, or Occupational Safety Health Administration, and from the fire marshal to launch its own investigation into the death of Scott. So while this investigation was underway, the arson investigators and detectives were in full force. As interviews and forensic evidence was coming to light, more and more attention was being brought on the source of the fire, which was the Spartan Box Gym, which is where the fire started at. So Emond Jones was the owner of the gym. He had shared with investigators that on that particular night of the fire, he said he locked up the gym around 8:54 p.m. and left the strip for his home. However, investigators saw video surveillance of a person matching Johnson's stature walking away from the rear of the gym. When questioned, Johnson claimed his innocence and pushed for electrical issues theory, stating it was an electrical problem which caused the fire. Investigators would rebuke this theory as no signs of electrical damages or issues weren't found. In fact, the fire was found to be started in the rear storage room in the gym, which had no electrical issues. And by the way, firefighters can determine how a fire started, whether it's electrical or gas. So you can't just make something because
not only that, if you're going to say it was an electrical issue in their owner of a place, then you would have papers showing that you've been calling them about electrical problems. There will be proof to back up your story.
Right.
Unless it's all locked up inside the business.
So with pressure and evidence mounting against him, Johnson was brought in again after it was found out that his financials were not quite up to par, showing he was behind in rent of the gym payments. Johnson eventually confessed to setting the fire using a disposable cigarette lighter and a mixture of gas and oil. He said he spilled the liquid from the back of the store and lit the liquid on fire to just narrowly escape the blaze himself.
For him.
Johnson claims he wanted to get out of his lease of the strip mall. The gym was behind in payments, and he was already receiving eviction notices. He was also personally not in good financial situations. Johnson felt as though he could get away with an insurance scam getting out of the lease if the fire destroyed the gym. It would take until October 2017, but Emond Johnson would finally be arrested under counts of arson and bodily injury, and arson resulting in death.
Well, I guess he's out of the lease now.
The lease is gone. The lease is burned up. Before we dive into that, let's go back to the OSHA and the fire marshal investigation in this case. So in 2018, the official report was released and highlighted many key mistakes that were associated with the poor handling of the response of San Antonio Fire Department. Firefighters arriving at the blaze at the Ingram Shopping Center approached the fire as they would a residential fire and not a commercial fire.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, why did they go in?
The report ultimately states that Deem's death and injuries of the 2 other firefighters were preventable. Fire Chief Charles Hood shared that the deadly incident and the resulting report spurred the fire department to change some of its procedures moving forward.
I was thinking that too.
At the end of the day, this fire was started intentionally, and that's what the DA's office felt as they brought charges upon Emond Johnson. It would take a few more years until Emond would face the court system, but on July 19, 2023, with his court-appointed attorney, he would plead no contest and would take a plea deal with the DA's office. Of course, right?
Help me, help you.
This would include 1 count of murder and arson resulting in injury or death, and being sentenced to 30 years in prison. Johnson will be eligible for parole after he serves half of his sentence. At sentencing, family and fellow firefighters had the opportunity to face Johnson, and each shared how Deem's death affected them. Deem's daughter stated, "Life is unexpected, and that's something I've learned after he passed, to treasure every moment, every day, as if it were your last." Brad Phipps, the fellow firefighter who was injured, and Chief Hood also shared how Deem was taken away and how he was such an asset as a firefighter, not just as a firefighter, but also for his community. Emond Johnson was ultimately sentenced to 30 years, with 6 years that he had already served. He was sent to the Dolph Briscoe unit in Dilley, Texas. He is eligible for parole on October 3rd, 2032. So his projected release date will be in 2047. And I got the chance to visit Ladder 35, which was such a good experience for me. I'd never been to.
I'm going to have to start requesting to get to go on some of these trips.
Well, I got to go to Ladder 35, which is really, it's like right down the street from where the scene of this is. You can go to the shopping center in Ingram, and they do have a nice little like memorial up there for him. It's just, wreaths, decorations. But if you go to the Ladder 35, they have a really nice tree, and then they have like a nice sitting stone. It's like his own little memorial like path. Mm-hmm. And then he's got rocks that it looks like it was painted by his children there. And so it's very nice. They did a really, really nice job. I think, like, honoring his memory. And then everyone was so nice at Ladder 35. So if you're over there, stop by and say hi to them.
Because I still have to go back to the point of, and I'm trying to use my words correctly and pick the right words. Because you said they treated it like a residential area, not a commercial area. If these places were closed, there should not have been anybody inside. So since then, I know that they've made corrections to it. But you still have to ask, why didn't they try to put the fire out from the outside versus going to the inside? Like, why did they go in? Because you have 3 cases of showing you what could have happened and what did happen. Because you have somebody that didn't get hurt as bad, somebody that got hurt, and then somebody that lost their life. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't have gauged.
Maybe there was miscommunication. Maybe they thought somebody was in there. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
TV is nothing like real life. Yeah. I like to think that TV does try to depict what happens in real life. So I do like watching 911.
I do too.
So they usually do not enter until someone that's in charge is there saying, okay, you just like if you see someone that's having CPR needed, you say, you go do this, you go do that. You delegate to who's supposed to be doing what. I don't know if it sounds like some people just ran in because they were first on site trying to react right away, but then that goes back to the training,
right?
I don't see, and nowhere in there, and I mean, I don't know if you need to research more for it, but nowhere in there says like where they entered at, because it sounds like it started from the back. If they entered from the parking lot area, they were in the front. so it may not have been as much fire in the front, so they thought they could go in and see.
And then quickly just...
Yeah, it spread. Oh boy, it's stupid. If you have a business into someone else's, I get that you're trying to figure out a way to make a quick dollar to get yourself out of a situation.
What were you thinking? Like,
he almost burned himself up.
I know. Like,
he wasn't thinking. He was thinking how to make a quick dollar to get out of debt, to avoid getting into debt, to get rid of this place. If you went to the bank and got a loan to get this business, and then you were months behind, you could have talked to somebody and just been like, hey, I need to close this place down. You could have found somebody to sell it. You can ask for a partner. If you're the owner for it and you can't figure it all out,
and then to have the audacity to go on the news.
I didn't see him crying.
And be
but
like,
a lot of them do that.
Yeah, this is sad. Like, dude, you started.
But how did you get there so fast?
Right.
To be on site, to be able to talk about it. I wouldn't show my face. I closed up at 8:54.
Yeah, I'm at home. I don't know what's going on over there.
And then you know you got cameras around the premises.
He's over there again in the same clothes, probably.
Like I said, like I watch Cheaters and people be like, "That's my twin. That's because that ain't me. I don't know who that is. Y'all
you're
playing
in the
me.
same clothes that you're on in the video,
and you get into your vehicle."
I don't know. Do they not think? I don't
There's
understand.
no thought process because you're so distraught and trying to figure out how to save yourself.
In that moment,
risk everyone else.
You're not even thinking about anything else.
Well, you got to think like
you're not.
I'm going to start a fire. The fire station is right down the street. They'll be able to get down here. But with them being that close, would your place have burned that bad? Like, what if it didn't burn in the direction that you wanted it to, and there was a fire enough for the fire station?
Well, and I'm thinking maybe that was it. Maybe he thought it wasn't going to be as bad as he thought, or he thought it was just going to.
He needed to be bad enough to where he couldn't run the place anymore.
Well, and
so he could file
right.
for it, so it couldn't just burn a doorway.
No,
it needed to burn the place.
He tried to. I think he tried to start.
He put a trail, so if we go, but it splashed towards him too.
Wasn't thinking. I don't know what he was thinking, and then to go in the news and be like, "Oh, this sucks." Yeah,
and then deny it all.
I know, and then still deny it. Like,
if
you're gonna do stuff.
Question anybody? Because it was 2017. There's cameras
everywhere,
and it's a very populated area. You've got a thrift store and you've got a gym, which frequent peak a lot of people. It's a big parking lot over there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be some sort of security for somebody. I don't want to say what I'm thinking. You can't fault a fire department. This is some of the things that they sign up for. You don't.
I know.
You don't ever want anyone to lose their life. Like 911, the chief is now gone.
I know.
And it's like, how do you deal with that? And it's just like with any job, you get close to the people that you work with, and it's hard to say that they're gone now. But if it's at a fault of what you did, you still have to kind of still protect and serve, but also adjust to make sure that you can protect and serve and protect your own. Is living with it their punishment?
I think it is, and I think you could tell that when I went there.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell. Maybe they have a little chip on their shoulder.
And then rectifying the situation.
They seemed kind of like guarded at first, and then when they realized, oh, I wasn't here until like I'm not blaming anybody. This is a genuine story.
You walked in.
I'm trying to tell. And
how did you?
Well, when I introduce myself and I say what I do, I think it's maybe they're like, oh. And I'm like, no. Like, I'm just here to take pictures. I just want to know, like, I just wanted to see what y'all have here. Because I told them I visited the other memorial and I just wanted to see what they had here. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they were so nice. They were so nice to show me around, show me everything they had. But I could tell maybe.
They're guarded.
Right. Which, I mean.
And I mean, after you left, I'm sure whatever they tried to bury has resurfaced now.
Right, I know, right? Like,
even though when they park, they see that memorial and they face it every single day.
But until you have someone coming around wanting to take pictures and see, I'm sure that brings up, and I don't know if it's the same people that were there, mm-hmm. This is already going to be 10 years ago, but
But when you become a new firefighter,
Oh,
I'm
can you
sure they have to
imagine?
tell you why that's
Can
there.
you imagine like going into that unit and being like, I'm the new guy, and they're like,
Well, all the new units know about each other. So
I
when
know,
you get transferred
but
to
I'm like, can you
when you get
imagine
transferred or
being
hired
that?
into a new unit, you kind of hear about the stories before you
Oh,
get
for
there.
sure.
So,
And I'm sure his story is told like a lot because it was
they-
part of the ocean. It was part of a fire marshal
have they
investigation.
lost anyone since then?
No. But that's the story of Firefighter Scott Deem.
Thank you for listening to our story today. And remember, True 10 is brought to you by you, our listeners and supporters. You can follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and join us on Facebook. And remember, stay safe, San Antonio.